Firstly, what do you think were the game changers as far as decisions or habits that made you a little more self-aware or kind of highlighted where you wanted your life to change?
I think for me, my biggest thing that kind of changed my life recently in the past year was probably quitting drinking for sure. I think, moving home was a huge, scary thing for me. I grew up in Sedona, as you probably all know, and coming home was kind of scary. I felt like I didn't want to get stuck here. I felt like when I finally moved to Vail, I could spread my wings and kind of find who I was. And then moving home and just kind of spiraled into the own numbing and masking thing because I didn't want to be here. So I think for me personally, quitting drinking really started this whole healing journey for myself. I'm at almost a year now, which is crazy. 11
Good
months
fucking job.
On the 5th. Yeah, it's crazy. I think for me, that was the thing that kind of started my whole healing journey, was just diving deep and not masking and numbing anymore. Like so many of us do. I'm not one to judge because that was definitely me and I was there. So, but yeah, I think that's what really helped me get to where I am now. It was just really quitting drinking, sitting in my own feelings, really feeling all of them, not numbing and not tapping out anymore. So yeah, how about you?
I do periodically quit drinking, so it's definitely the same. Because you're definitely left facing all your own shit, which is not fun, but it is rewarding when you don't have an escape route, because then it's healing, and then you actually have you develop the capacity to face the stuff that's happening in your life. But at first, it really is just all in your face, so it's very unappealing. I would say in the same way, meditation, learning how to meditate, because sitting down and doing the breath work and choosing to be single-minded, not only you develop crazy focus, but being with your emotions, and again, not having an escape route. So I'd kind of if I am going to drink, I'd be I need to sit down and meditate first. I need to at least spend half an hour just with my breath and just processing all the shit going on in my daily life before I allow myself to an escape, which they go hand in hand well. So if I'm going to escape, at least I make sure it's intentional. So it's not an unconscious, I'm just getting the fuck out of here. So I'd say meditation, kind of very similar. And I think both of them are just choosing to be more mindful in your reality, more present with what life is throwing at you, instead of just choosing to not accept it and to just try to circumvent life challenges and pretend that it's not happening or whatever. And that's what being busy, distracting yourself, just mind-numbing things, getting drunk, those are all such easy avenues to escaping the present moment. And it takes a lot of humbling to come back and be oh yeah, that's not how shit is right now. It's actually, I just don't want to slow down and look at it. So,
well, I think it's just hard to not numb and not tap out when there's everyone else is kind of doing it, you know what I mean? Especially people our age. I think that's a big factor I've learned. My therapist said it's so easy to numb because at every corner there's a liquor store, at every corner there's a dispensary, you know what I mean? So it's kind of society not only tells us that it's okay to do it, but it's literally right there, you know what I mean? It's the devil on your shoulder when you drive by a liquor store or a dispensary. You're just are you sure you don't want to go in? You sure you don't want to just tap out? You sure you don't want to just numb? So, especially when I think everyone our age really does drink, you know what I mean? I feel it does make it difficult. I've learned through my path, now I can totally, go out and have fun. I can go to a bar and I can have, some club soda with some lime, and I can go snowboarding, which is my favorite thing to do. And just have a club soda, and I feel more refreshed, and at the same time I feel I'm more ready to snowboard than everybody else.
Fuck yeah.
Everyone else is oh, I'm gonna stop and have a beer. I'm all right, I'll see you guys. You know what I mean? So
yeah.
I think it's kind of figuring out, everyone has their own path, but it is kind of difficult to not do it when everybody else is around you.
Yeah.
And I think the biggest thing is surrounding yourself with people who have that same mentality and that same drive.
Definitely.
And who want success just as much as you. And I think like surrounding yourself with a circle is so important, because you know I've had friends personally, shout out, you know who you are on this podcast if you're listening, but who've like sat me down during the times and I was really like messing up, and be like, hey man, like what are you doing? You know what I mean? Like you know you're better than this. We all know you're better than this. Like honestly, what the fuck are you doing? You know, and you know, get on your path. And you know, I even had some friends tell me, like, because I would call them about them, you know, about the same thing over and over again, talk to them, and finally I had some friends say, hey, you know what, I love you, I'll be here for you, but I'm not going to enable you, and I'm not going to like listen to you talk about the same things over and over again. Like you need to pick up your pants, you know, and basically be a man and like deal with it with yourself. I'm sure you've been there too before.
For sure. Yeah.
And you know what I mean? That shout out friends like that, because honestly, truly, you need people like that in your life that aren't going to enable you and tell you when you're fucking up, and tell you, like, sit you down and like, what are you doing? You know what I mean? Like, you're so much better than this. So shout out who you are. You know who you are out there. But yeah.
On that note, what do you think? What are the incentives to cleaning up your life and choosing sobriety and choosing not to numb? Because if you look at the option, if it's like, I'm stressed out, today's been kind of a pain in my ass, I've got this ahead of me, I'm tired, I'm stressed, and you have the option to just like have a drink or watch TV or do both or whatever, instead of like sitting in your own shit or continuing to look at what life is throwing at you. What are your incentives for being present and not choosing to drink and choosing that path?
I think it's like to get to this life that we have, you know, like truly, like I'm sitting here in front of you, like starting this podcast, which is like even crazy to think about, you know what I mean? And I have a little from Big Brothers Big Sisters, which is another huge blessing, you know what I mean? I'm like so healing for him, and also like so healing for me. Like I see myself in him like so much. It's crazy. But honestly, I think just this life that I've created for myself, you know, like I've bought my own house, like my work is thriving, you know what I mean? The restaurant is doing amazing, you know, I'm coming up with ideas. I think like I used to literally think like, oh, you know, how long do I have until 4 p.m. when this like shift is over? And now it's like, okay, let's do a holiday speakeasy. Like, let's redo the cocktail. Like, let's do, you know, new incentives. Like, I'm present, I'm there.
Yeah.
And I think like just being present in your daily life, you know, like if you're sober and you wake up every day, not only do you know the type of man like you're going to be every single day, it's like my staff knows, you know, what Kyle's going to walk in through the door.
For sure.
Which is like so amazing.
That's cool.
And powerful.
That is really cool.
And like when I was drinking, you know, they probably didn't know what. I know they probably didn't know what Kyle was going to walk through the door, you know?
Less predictable.
Kyle that was like out partying all night and then coming and hungover? Was it Kyle that, you know, just wasn't present or would skip work or whatever, you know what I mean? Like, so that within itself is powerful. You know, like I feel like I'm ready for a relationship now in my life, where like a year ago I definitely wasn't. Like I'm ready, my bank account like thanks me, you know, it's not more money than I ever have in my bank account because of not drinking. Just went on this amazing trip to reward myself. Like I told myself when I quit drinking, like I was going to take myself on a Europe trip, and I did it, you know what I mean? So like it's just, I don't know, but it is a blessing to not have like cravings and have things like some people do, because I was so ready in my life to like quit drinking.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so that's a blessing within itself. But yeah, the incentives is like just to be clear. Like, I mean, we were talking about this like a month ago, like the most successful people that we know are sober. Yeah. You know what I mean?
Really? Yeah.
Truly. And yeah, it's crazy. You talk to them and a lot of them will say like, yeah, because I don't numb or I'm focused. Like you have so much more of a drive. I feel like when you're not drinking, let's go. Instead of just like you wake up and you're kind of groggy and you're like hungover, and I feel like as you get older, your hangovers, like everyone says, get worse. So, yeah. I mean, it's a blessing, but you know.
Yeah.
What are some things that you've had to like shed? What are some things that you've had to shed throughout this past year?
So I think as soon as you decide on like something that you're moving towards, you meet every obstacle and every belief, every behavior, like everything that's going to be in your way to get there. And for me, choosing to be optimistic, like choosing to live in gratitude and be grateful, is met by this belief that the universe is like punishing you for not being better, not being sober, choosing to numb, resisting life, resisting challenges. And in a way, it's like that belief kind of punched me in the dick, because it was like, I legitimately feel like the universe is fucking with me if I try to be happy. And you could choose to be happy, and it's kind of like a reminder that there's challenges and there's just things that you can't change. There's a lot of things that we can't change, and that's the opportunity. It's like you could be happy while those things show up, and you could choose to see them as a given of life and an opportunity to grow and maybe a doorway to your transformation, but they're always going to be there. And I think choosing to be happy is like inviting more of those things into your life, because you have to learn that happiness isn't dependent on how smooth sailing your life is. Mm-hmm. So I think for me, and it kind of ties into the sobriety thing too, because it's like somebody said, if you numb the bad, you're still numbing the good, and you can't escape the bad without dimming your whole you know. So you can't escape the things that you don't want and still experience the things that you do. So you're really turning down the volume. You're dimming all the good, happy, celebratory, joyful, exciting moments in exchange for lowering the intensity that you feel pain and discomfort in. So I think for me, sobriety and choosing to live in gratitude has really rapidly highlighted a bunch of things. And I really had to face that belief that like the world is not punishing you, life's not punishing you, it's inviting you to live more fully.
Yeah, and I think like even throughout all this healing journey, like my acupuncturist, because I remember going to her office, and acupuncturist changed my life truly, but I was talking to her and I was like, I just feel really down, like I've been on such a high like recently, and she like looked at me and she said, even when you are having these highs and you're so used to these highs, like you're gonna have these lows, and it's so weird to like sit across from you and think like, because I've felt like every day was such a low for me personally for the last like probably a minute, that when you feel high and you're riding this high, it's like it's okay to have those days. Yeah. And we have to remember that, like it's okay to have a bad day, it's okay to feel off, it's okay to like wake up and feel like, today I don't feel 100%. I don't feel like I can't show up as much as I can, but the biggest thing is when that happens, we still show up. You know what I mean? Like, and like to live in gratitude, man, has like seriously changed my life. Like I have a gratitude journal I do every day. You know what I mean? Like it's really powerful to like live in gratitude. I tell my staff.
Why do you think?
Because I think like it's so easy to like think about the negative. It's so easy to say, oh, I don't have as much money I'd like, as I would like. I don't have the car that I want. I don't have the job that I want. I don't have the girlfriend or the wife that I want, or whatever it could be. You know what I mean? Like, but you might, and like my therapist said, like to write down like 10 or 5 negative thoughts you had that day, and then write an antidote. So like maybe, like as an example, cool. I'm not where I want to be. Okay, you might believe that, but you can antidote that and say, I might not be where I want to be right today, but I'm working towards it.
Yeah, totally.
You know what I mean? And no one's perfect. Like we all don't, like I still have, people still have bad days, they have good days, but like living in gratitude is so beautiful. Like I told my staff, like be grateful for not only the job you have, but the place you get to be. Like, you have a restaurant that's immediately outside. You can go hug a tree. You know what I mean? Like, we have created this family environment. And one of my staff came up to me the day after and said, like, thank you so much. I started doing a gratitude journal. And, like, literally, she's like, it's changed my life. It's so true to, like, even just be thankful for and write down 5 things you're grateful for, because it really is so much to be thankful for. But when you're in that low, when you're in that low, it is really hard to like, and I've been there, to like sit there and be like, okay, I'm grateful for this, because honestly, when you're in that such a low place, you're like, it's what can I be grateful for?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, what am I grateful for? Like, feeling like this negativity and this heaviness that I'm
What the
wearing.
fuck's there to be grateful for?
Yeah, like, it's just like, what the fuck is there to be
Yeah.
grateful for? But there still is so much to be grateful for.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, it's just crazy. And hearing stories from like other people, which is why I'm really excited to have this podcast, is like, when you are at your lowest low, your life is still like sometimes nothing compared to what someone next to you has done or like, is dealing with. It's crazy. And we did that men's hike for the full moon. I'll never forget. It was a great day. But
Yeah, it was
we
fun.
met that guy Michael, remember, when he was coming down?
Michael, yeah.
And
He's like a badass yogi covered in tattoos, just like a wealth of insights. Just probably the most interesting dude that's ever been to Sedona.
And he literally said, like, at the very end, when we did our closing men's circle, we were hugging, he said, don't judge anybody, because everyone is on their own path and their own journey. And I was sitting there thinking, that is so true, because everyone is walking and dealing with their stuff.
Totally.
You know what I mean? And yeah, that kind of hit when you said that. So
Yeah, dude, I really been reading this book, and they like one of the themes in the book is that the ego is the voice of the child, like the inner child. And if you think about people like that, two things. If you look to see like the good in people or God in other people, and you also see their flaws or their judgment, their behavior, like their shitty pessimism, whatever, the ego that's trying to keep them safe and like combating the world is the voice of their inner child. So at some point they learned that they needed to be defensive, or they needed X, Y, and Z, or what they needed to behave a certain way to meet their human needs. If you start to see that in people, and I'm not just saying like, look, everybody's like just acting like a child, but if you really do think about the ego being the voice of the inner child, and there still being like a divine, beautiful nature to every human being, then you'll see like how much people are on their own path and how much it's none of your fucking business. You'll be like, okay. Like it's a wildly different experience, life for everybody. That's been super eye-opening for me, because I work in customer service. So we have to find very unique ways to look at people instead of what the fuck is wrong with you.
what is going through your mind?
How did you get like this?
How did you get here? Yeah, you know, honestly though, I think that's a huge lesson too, is like just, it's crazy, like everyone's on their own journey, and it's like, I feel like it's so easy to judge. Like it's so easy to like see somebody and be like, okay, well that person is in a really bad spot, or how is that person flashing out? And it's like taken me a while, especially in the service industry, like if someone is yelling at me, like it used to like rattle me, and used to shake, and like, you know what I mean? And Kimberly taught me this thing, which has really helped me, is if like, first off, it's not your energy, they're projecting their energy on you, and like first off, it's not gonna happen. Like I've worked too hard to get to like this light and this embodiment that I am, like your energy is not gonna hit mine, don't worry, bro. And like go up to like a sink and like wash my hands and get soap, and then be like, what energy is mine, what energy is not mine is not welcome here, and wash it, and then wash the soap, go down the drain, has really, really helped me. Like Kimberly told me
that's cool.
Really helps, because like at the end of the day, their energy is theirs, it's not mine. I'm not going to take it on. And first off, you're not going to yell at me, you're not going to yell at my staff. You know what I mean? And so I think just like having that, and like that centeredness, you know what I mean? Like my therapist calls it being centered. And I used to always like question like what that meant. Like, okay, what does being centered mean? Like, what does that entail? And he's like, you always don't make big decisions when you're not centered. So I feel like I look back at my like past couple of years, I was not centered at all. I mean, for a minute, probably since like college, even through college. So like even big decisions like I made personally in my life were not from a place of centeredness. And I think that is the biggest thing. Like I asked you, like, what's something you've shed? For me personally, it's shedding like my old guilt for like how I used to be.
For sure.
You know what I mean? Like how I would show up in my past relationships or past friendships or my own self. Like there's a lot that I regret in a lot of instances. But at the end of the day, like I can't as Ben says it too, my therapist, is like, at the end of the day, you can't, like, that's not me anymore.
Yeah.
Like, that's not Kyle.
Uh-huh.
And that was the old Kyle. Like, what about the new Kyle? And what does that mean? You know what I mean? Like, and I feel like it's a lot easier said than done, just to be like, okay, well, I'm just gonna like let go of the past and be present and be in this new Kyle or this new way of being, but like still not focus on the past.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Which is really, really hard, bro.
Yeah.
Because like I wasn't the best in relationships. I wasn't the best in my own personal self and my own personal life. So it's hard for me because, you know, a place of healing, it's like, okay, so I've healed myself, but you can't take back the ways or the things that you said or the ways that you showed up in whatever it could have been in any instance. But you have to learn to just let go of it.
Yeah.
You know, and
real quick on being centered, how do you know when you are centered and acting from a place of that instead of impulse or fear? How do you get centered, and how do you know when you're centered throughout the day?
I think for me, how I get centered is like Qigong has really helped me. Journaling, meditation, great, like having gratitude. But I think like just being centered is like not feeling anxious. Like I feel like I used to feel this like thing in my chest for like ever. You know what I mean? I would like just kind of like make rash decisions, you know, not think, not come from a place of like my heart center.
Yeah.
You know, like I remember certain instances in my life where I just like would just rash out and think, like not really sit there and think. I just got my aura read for the first time. I've never done that before. And like she said, like, yeah, your crown chakra is like through the roof. Like whatever you're doing is like, you've been working. And then she said, like, I've been really like this past 2 years been focusing on my heart chakra. And she said the heart chakra is the color of green. And so like I was radiant and like green, which is interesting because I've worked so hard. Because like for me, and like Kimberly said, heart is the I am statement, right? So like I am strong, I am.
It's picking up on that, just so you know.
Like I am, you know what I mean?
Uh-huh.
So like for me, I think that's
Like being.
Yeah, like I am.
Yeah.
And I feel like I have really been hard on that. You know, like I have not been like really rewarding myself and focusing on my heart. So like I think the biggest thing from being centered is like coming from a place of like I am.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And like what that does and how that entails and how you get there. You know, everyone has their own ways of doing it, but like the heart is something that I've been really focusing on.
Yeah.
Because it's how you show up in a relationship. It's how you show up for yourself, how your parents, your family, my animals, you know, my daily life.
Yeah, look at all these fucking plants. I saw that about you. And even now, like, when we plug in again, I'm like, that guy's fucking definitely living from his heart. I think we should open up on, like, optimism versus pessimism. Because you talked about hugging a tree, and a lot of people can roll their eyes at that and be like, fucking hippies. And so what's good about being optimistic and shedding pessimism? Because I think for a lot of people, pessimism is associated with intellect, and for us to be able to use our 3 million year old brain to recognize dangers, you know, for the tribe, or where something can go wrong, or where something isn't working right. It's so popular to like hate the government and the food industry and hate people that don't use their blinkers. So why is there anything good about being optimistic? Like what's good? And gratitude, like how do you think they weigh towards each other? Something like that.
Well, I think like first off, to tap on the tree situation, like I remember the first
First of all.
The trees. No, but seriously, Kimberly told me she wanted me to sit. Kimberly's my acupuncturist, everybody, but she told me she wanted me to sit under a tree for a month. And I remember the first day, it's funny, you said like it's fucking hippies. I remember sitting in her office, like looking at her being like, what? Under a tree? And she said trees are the most...
Siddhartha?
Trees are like the most grounded thing in the world, right? They are literally, their roots are not only in the ground, but they have been there for 100+ years, maybe even more.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's a big tree. And I remember saying like, what? Like, you want me to go to a tree? Like, she's like talking to me about it, and I'm like trying not to judge, because I'm thinking like, damn hippie, you know, like kind of like.
Yeah.
But I remember, like, literally, it was crazy. I remember, like, personally, I went, it was my day off, and I was going to go paddleboarding. This is the day after she told me to go find a tree. And I, like, am late getting up. It's my day off. It was when I first quit for 90 days, so I think I was, like, on my day, like, 70 or something, or 75 at this time. And I'm driving, and I'm like, I'm going to go find this tree, you know? So I'm driving, and I go to paddleboard first. And I get there, I'm running late. Dude, there's 60-mile-per-hour winds. Links Lake, Prescott. I'm not paddleboarding. There is no paddleboarding.
Oh,
you know what I
dang.
mean? Like, I'm holding my paddleboard, the thing flies over.
You go wind
I'm, like,
sailing.
all frustrated, bro. I was like, it was funny because I was so, like, angry. Like, how you feel like I was like, I've been really, like, centered, and it really does take a lot for me to get angry now at this moment. Or get knocked off center. But I was knocked off center.
Yeah.
I was like, it's fucking windy. Just my days off. I'm ruined. So then I, like, get in my car, and I'm just pissed off, and I'm driving home. And there's this random, I'm, like, going through Jerome, almost to Jerome, and there's this random, like, dirt lot, right? And I'm like, oh, should I go check that out? And I'm like, nah, bro, I need to get home. I just want to fucking get home. So, like, I keep going, and then I was like, no, I'm listening to my intuition. So I, like, skirted around, turned around, went down the path, and then little do you know, there's this ginormous tree, which I ended up getting tattooed, but...
Nice.
It was right in front of me. Butterflies flying around. Like, okay, well, here's this tree. You know, like,
One spot there's not 60-mile-an-hour winds.
So I get out, bro, and I, like, sit under this tree, and she asked permission to, like, touch it, you know, and exchange energies.
Yeah.
She's like, I want you to sit down there and, like, literally meditate and give the tree everything, right?
Yeah.
And I was on my first 90 days of being sober. Like, I was in a really pink cloud area, right? Like, I was still kind of figuring out my life, my path, my journey. And I remember touching the tree and asking for permission.
Yeah.
And bro, I just started bawling. Like, it wasn't even like I'm getting chills. Like, it was just such an emotional, like how you just said this morning for you. Like, I just started bawling, like this emotional release.
Yeah.
And me and this tree had like a one-on-one, bro. Like, I sat under that tree for like a solid like 30 or 45 minutes, and I was like literally sitting there exchanging energies. Like, I remember sitting and like giving it everything, like my old path, my old being, like my old life, like my old regrets. Like, I mean, just crying and giving this tree, because she said like trees can take everything and anything and like give it all. And so I was I was fucking giving this tree everything, bro. Literally just like crying. And then I remember it started pouring, bro, like cats and dogs. Like, I remember like pouring, it just started like literally pouring cats and dogs. And I remember, like, it's funny, I have my journal right here, even an entry I was reading a little bit ago, but I like hugged the tree, it's raining, it's fucking pouring, dude, and I like left, right? The craziest thing was it was 8/8 portal, and Kimberly told me she wanted me to write down everything I wanted to manifest. So I was in Encinitas, like, I don't know, probably a little bit more than a month after this day, maybe less. And this is crazy, bro. This is like the whole journey that I've been on. And I was sitting there, and I was literally journaling about 8/8, and I remember thinking, I'm gonna go look back at my old journal entry and like what that is and what that said. And I go back and I look at it, and I literally was reading the skies letting go as I need to, because that's when it started raining when I was in the tree. And bro, it started raining on me at the beach. It was sunny Encinitas. It was crazy, bro. I'm sitting there, I'm like, is it raining? People are tanning around me, bro. People are hanging out. Everyone's sitting by the sun. And I'm like, is it fucking raining on me right now? And I'm looking around, and literally it's sprinkling on just me. Yeah. And that was such a pivotal moment of my healing journey. But like, that's been so many instances. Like, I feel like, how you said, like, if we just let it go and let it be, like, the universe, God, whatever you believe in, like, just like gives that back to you tenfold, man. Like, and it's so crazy to think about. Like, if you just sit there and manifest, and you just ask and pray about the life that you want, it's gonna come. You know. And like, even for the tree situation, like, she wanted me to go find an alder tree because she had a message that I was gonna have there. And I go and I hike like 45 minutes, like way out, trying to find this alder tree. And it was like all the tree leaves had been dying. Like, there was one alder tree in Sedona. I like looked it up, and you could see Cathedral behind it. So I was trying to find that exact tree. Couldn't find it. I was hiking for like 3 hours or 2 hours. I was like 2 hours. and I had like 4 hours before therapy, so I had to kind of like stop, and I saw this tree that looked like the tree in Prescott that I found. I'm like, oh, that's really cool. So I brought my flute and I was journaling, and I give it a hug to say goodbye, and like someone had literally left a note on the tree. And I'm like, so things like that, you know, everything I needed to hear in that moment was on that tree. Gave it a hug, and then I see the note. I didn't even see it when I first got there, which was crazy. I just happened to stop at this tree. So like, I think it's so crazy.
What was the note?
I took a picture. I think I left it for someone else to find it, but it was just basically saying like, I pray that God like basically gives everything this person that they're wishing for and that they're praying for. Like, I hope that this person stops searching and knows that it's there.
Yeah.
And in that moment, it was so
that's cool.
heavy, bro, because like I remember like in this moment, I felt like I was been searching, right? Like I was like searching for that outer love, like. Yeah. You know what I mean? And I used to search through it with alcohol or like numbness or weed.
Totally,
or whatever.
yeah.
And, like I felt like I needed that easiness. Like I was searching.
Yeah. That low hanging fruit.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, it was like it was in me the whole time.
Yeah.
You know, and so I think that like I tap in, like you said, like trees and gratitude is like it's so important to stop numbing and like look within, because it literally is right there. But when we're like in that place, it feels like it's so far.
Dude, yeah, you know? It's a hard reach. What if the note just said, "You fucking hippie"? You fucking hippie.
You have found the tree. Stop searching. You're here.
You're done.
You're done.
As far as being off-centered, because we all know what that looks and feels like. Maybe not. If you want to share when you realize, like, when you're off-center and how to get back on center.
Like when I realized that?
When you realize, like, okay, I'm obviously perturbed. Sometimes customers are a handful, and you could really go down the rabbit hole of like, how did we get here as a species?
How did you dress yourself?
I've never thought that.
Well, my mom,
that's so funny. Oh yeah, okay, I gotcha.
I think it's so funny. Like, how did you get dressed?
That's so funny.
How did you put your underwear on? You know?
Do you, even yesterday, it was like everybody that came. Hey guys, how's it going? And you're just like, what the fuck is happening in your head? To where it's like, if you're greeted 3 or 4 times, or like, and you just can't engage, but then you start like creating your own dialogue, you're just like, where are you? Where the fuck are you? So and it's not, I don't think it's that hard to get knocked off centered, and especially if it's day in, day out, if you do that full time, and then you have your own life, you know, to attend. So it's like, when you're obviously off-centered, how do you recognize it, and what do you do to get back?
I think like that's a huge thing that I've been, when I was like, you know, asking Kimberly, I feel off-centered today. So like, what does that mean? Like, I might wake up and I feel cloudy. I might feel super down. Like, I might feel really depressed, which is like for me a really unnatural. Like, I journal about it. Like, today I'm feeling like depressed, or I might be feeling like really down, but it feels weird because that's not how I feel anymore, you know? But to remember and to remind yourself, like, it's okay to feel that way, you know? And I remember going to Kimberly's office, and I just said, I feel like really down. Like, I feel like, you know, like, what's going on? I feel really like off-center. And she like looked at me and she said, like, it's okay. You need, like, it's okay to feel those days. Like, tap into it and see why. And I feel like, you know, like anxiety used to like take over my body. You know, I feel like I would have
same.
Just, you know what I mean?
Same.
Like, I would feel anxious.
Intensely.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Like your chest feels like it's closing.
Yeah.
Like you feel uncentered.
Yeah.
And I got a reading a while ago from some customers that like offered to give me a free reading, and I went over there and they said, like, listen to that anxiety because it's trying to teach you something.
Totally. Yeah.
I never thought of it like that.
Yeah.
Okay, so like I feel anxious. Like, what is that teaching me? Because normally it's to teach you like fight or flight, right? Like how you said earlier, like if we're in a fight or flight, like I'm being chased by a bear, what do I have to do to survive?
Yeah.
It's not good to live in that every single day, and I feel like a lot of us do. People live, you know, in this fight or flight, which is terrible.
Just chronic stress.
It's chronic stress. You're scared of every situation. A man looking at you, this woman's like talking to me, you know, differently, and you're like, what's going on? Where am I at? You feel centered.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, what is that teaching you? And I think for me, the biggest thing that I've really tried to work on in my own personal life is like being the earth, right? Like for people at my work, like my staff, like being the earth. For myself, being the earth, you know, like that was the thing that she said, you know, what do you want to be for the people around you? And it took me for a while
to be grounded.
Yeah, to be grounded enough to be the earth.
Yeah.
You know, like have people come up to me about their issues and be like, I remember getting breakfast with a good friend of mine, and I was sitting across from, this is way before I even like started my own healing journey, so this is probably over a year ago, and I'm sitting there having lunch or breakfast with him. And I remember sitting across from him, and there was just this place of, he just came from such a place of calmness and like centeredness. And I remember sitting across from him and being like, fuck, like I want that.
Yeah.
I want what he has.
Yeah.
It's crazy now though that like people in my life who are close to me have said like, you come from a place of such calmness and you have this presence of like calmness and oneness.
Yeah.
But it's so crazy because I never thought that. I felt like when I was having breakfast with him, it felt like so out of reach. Like there's no way that I could be there. You know, how did you get there? I want that. But for me, it's so crazy because like now that's me. You know what I mean? That's so crazy to even think about and such a blessing. But
I think groundedness comes with sobriety. I think if you're choosing to do the work, and that's the difference between like when you're stressed, and life is obviously blowing up in your face, not going to get a drink, like not rushing off to go do something distracting, not rushing to like something that's going to make you feel good. It's like you could turn something that's going to take you 20 fucking minutes into the next 5 years of your life if you don't allow things to just play out and to face your emotions and to face like what's coming up, what's stirring the body, and not trying to rush to escape it. And it's kind of like it's almost like the reflection of the opioid epidemic. It's like this need to not feel the pain, which I get, but at the same time it's like I think that's how you cultivate stillness. And groundedness is like choosing to be present in your life no matter what is going on. Like that's it. That's all there is.
I think like tapping, like making boundaries, I think that's a big thing what we like all have learned. I mean, we're still young, but like boundaries is something that's taken me like a long time to learn, but is so needed. You know what I mean? Like I think like cutting out triggers, like how we were talking about, you know, I think yesterday, like triggers in our own personal life. Like I think the biggest trigger for me was my dad.
Yeah.
And I don't talk to him anymore. Like wrote him a letter. If you're close to me, you know that. But I think that is something that my inner child has been battling with for so long. Like the abandonment of my father.
Yeah.
And not like, I feel like it would have been easier if he would have just stopped showing up, right? Like if he would at 7 years old been like, I'm leaving, I'm never fucking seeing you again, like I'm peacing out, would have been a lot easier than this like, oh, I'm gonna show up and then not showing up.
Oh yeah.
In so many moments of my life, you know what I mean? Like, and the last one was like my graduation for college. Like, was oh yeah, I'm gonna be there, and then didn't show up.
That sucks.
And at the end of the day, bro, like it's taken me so long to realize that it's not me, it's him, right? But it took me 24 years to think that and to realize that, right? And it's really interesting because with my little and big brothers, big sisters, like his dad left when he was 7 months, and they don't talk, right? And it's like there's so much, like I see so much in him as I see with me, right?
Yeah.
But like, so for instance, when I started and I was doing that and I really wanted to give back, my therapist was like, if you dare say you're gonna be at something and then not show up for this kid, right?
Yeah.
And I never thought of it like that because with my dad, it was like so many times, like I had a baseball game and he didn't show up, right? Like, don't you fucking dare say you're gonna like show up to this kid's baseball game or football, whatever it is, dinner, and then not show up.
Right.
If you're sick, you should be kind of sick because like you better show up. And I never thought of it like that, but I think that is a big shedding for me was like, you know, when my dad would call, I would get so much anxiety and I would get so like triggered. The that I would go grab a drink.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I feel like that was
Oh,
my
yeah.
scapegoat. It was like, if I felt anxious and I felt uncentered, it was so much easier just to go grab a drink. Right? And I remember, like, in my earlier stages of sobriety, like, it was crazy. It was Father's Day weekend. It was so busy at work. We had a flood. We actually had it closed for like a week. But one of my friend's brothers walks in, and I was vacuuming like the water from the leak because it was so much busy. Like, I was so stressed, right? And he's like, "Hey, you want to go grab?" I had to close the restaurant, and it was like 30 minutes after we closed. He was like, "Do you want to go grab a drink at the brewery, which is right across my restaurant?"
This is your dad?
No, this is my friend's brother.
Okay, gotcha.
And I was like, I would love to, but I can't. You know what I mean? And I was like, that was a moment where I was like, oh shit, I can do this, right?
Yeah.
Because I'm like, I just did it. Only did I'm like not tapping out. So I went outside in the patio and I started doing qigong. Like, and I remember journaling about this, and then I was so excited to go tell Kimberly because I was like, holy crap, like I can do this, right?
Yeah.
Like I don't need to tap out and drink alcohol just to like numb myself, because what does that do? It just spirals you down more. But I think we all have our crutch, right? Like, you know, mine was alcohol or smoking weed, you know what I mean? And my dad was a big reason for that. But at the end of the day, Caleb, like, we can blame others for our problems. Like, my dad didn't pour the alcohol down my throat. My dad didn't light the joint every time that I smoked a joint to forget about my shit. At the end of the day, I can use it as an excuse. I can even use an excuse of like, oh, I don't know how to love because I didn't have a dad in my life, or I never saw, like,
for sure,
I've never seen true love, right?
Yeah.
Or I can like be a really shitty dad because I had a shitty dad. Like, we have to, at the end of the day, like how you said, like, we have to kind of just pick ourselves up and by our own like straps.
Yeah.
And, like, at the end of the day, no one's gonna come save you but yourself.
Yeah.
And we can use
Takes courage.
It does.
Takes a lot of fucking courage.
It's not easy at all. You know, it's not easy to stop numbing, and it's not easy to pick ourselves up. But at the end of the day, like, no one's gonna pick us up but ourselves. I think that's the biggest thing.
Yeah.
You know, that I've learned is, like, no one's gonna come save you.
Right.
As much as you want it.
Yeah.
You know?
But you can save yourself.
So,
you can fix your own shit.
Like, how have you like saved your own self? Like, what are some things that you've done that have helped you?
I digest books, like devour books, and I try to make like an actionable step out of every chapter. But essentially, if you really read a book, if you take notes, if you highlight, I fold the corners of my books. Just gonna throw that out there for everybody that bothers. And I think it's so. There's just like all these greats. There's professors, there's leaders that have spent decades of their life like studying and mastering something. And if you want better relationships, there's so many books out there that would speak right to you. And I don't think you need to like go get a textbook on everything you want to learn. But if you could find an author that like kind of intuitively resonates with how you think and how you feel about life, that it's like even a sci-fi novel can be so changing, like so psychedelic to the way that you think and interact with the world. So mine's a big transformative force has been just finding books that resonate with me. Emotional Intelligence, Daniel Goleman, David Rico stuff, David Hawking, Letting Go. So anything that has to do with identifying emotions, becoming self-aware, deepening meditation, and interacting with other people. I feel like there was just so many years of programming that I had to rewire to be able to show up in my life and have fun again, because it was just enough stacked against me that I felt like I wasn't having fun. It was too much of a challenge. I felt broken, you know, and it was like mostly the books that helped me gain perspective and be responsible in my life in a way that I didn't think was possible. And there's just so much out there. So there's really no excuse. I think it's, if you're apathetic and you feel hopeless, then it's easy to not look for help. But just because somebody's born with more resources than you doesn't mean that you both don't have equal access to resources. Like, we all drive on roads that are essentially free to us, aside from taxes. But we all could go to a library. We all have so much at our fingertips, and it's more of a matter of resources. The fucking internet. I mean, there's like so much out there on YouTube. There's just so much, and there's no excuse. And I think a lot of times we're all kind of tumbled in that emotional or the informational overload where it's like, where do you even start? Because it's like everything is out there. Everybody's trying to sell something, and it could get really confusing and overwhelming quick. But I think just trusting your intuition, kind of tuning into like what feels good and staying out of overwhelm and just looking at like, okay, what do you want today? Like, what does it look like? And where are you going to start? And just slowly giving yourself the grace not to figure it all out overnight, but to at least just start. Just start poking around, see who resonates with you. What's the next nugget of truth like on your path? What's true to you, because you don't need to pick up everything. You don't need to resonate with all the teachers and everything that everybody's learning. You don't have to fucking invest in Bitcoin. You don't have to be on the same, you don't have to share the same plan as everybody around you. It's like just what's true for you. Where are you going to start with that? And just keep going, because there's like, I believe that there's a thread like of your own experience. And if you follow that and you truthfully tune into who you are and humble yourself to the present moment, that you can very easily identify the next thing on your path, whatever that is. Be it a person you're meant to meet, a hobby you're supposed to start. Maybe you need to like just really focus on being hydrated every day. And there's something waiting for you that's going to be more truthful, more central to your experience, that's just waiting for you to settle down and acknowledge it. Like I think it's there for all of us. I don't know what that is.
I think like intuition, like to tap on what you said, is like so important for us to like really listen to. You know what I mean? Like I think sobriety though for sure is like something that really helps with intuition. Like I feel like we all have intuition, but it's like, do we want to listen to it? Like do we want to like sit there and sometimes it's just like it's shit that we don't want to do, right?
For sure.
Like you really want to go to this concert or whatever it is, or it could be anything, and your intuition is like, you probably should not go, and you really want to go, and then if you do go, some shit happens and you're like, I shouldn't have gone.
And you knew you're doing what you shouldn't be doing when you're doing it. And then you're mad at yourself for not choosing the right thing. It's like, fuck.
So I think your intuition is a huge factor that we all have. And I think like how you said, it's all within us, we just need to like listen to it. And I think like living in Sedona has been, there's a lot of hippie stuff that obviously to me and you is so like...
Dude, the whole spiritual supermarket.
Yeah.
We live right in the middle.
Yeah. And I think like living in Sedona is so interesting. Someone told me it's like living in a vortex every single day. And it like it puts your stuff in your face, whether you want to see it or not.
Yeah.
And it's up to you if you're going to focus on it and like do the work. And I really didn't believe that until I've been on this like journey. But it's so true, bro.
Yeah.
It's like true.
I think so.
It's like it puts it in front of you, and it like will spit people out.
Yeah.
It doesn't want
to. Or lock your ass in. Dude, I feel like I've been stuck here for so long. It's like, where are you going?
Yeah, I'm proud of you too. I think this is gonna be a huge moment for you.
Thanks,
Caleb
bro.
is moving out and going on his own path, and I think it's a really fresh start for him.
Yeah.
I'm really excited for you and everything that is going to come, you know what I mean?
Thanks, bro.
I'm proud of like both of us, because I feel like we're doing the work and we're not just talking the talk, like we're walking it. And I feel like it's so easy just to talk it but not walk it.
Yeah,
at the end of the day.
For sure. Yeah.
And I think doing this podcast and like actually sitting down and doing this is like showing up not even just for us but for other people.
For sure.
Hear this. Like you said, like listen to finding a book and like listen to what has helped you. Like I hope that this podcast and this platform can also help men that feel alone, because I was in such that place for sure. Like I feel like I was so alone in so many instances in my life. So to have this platform and I've reached out to a lot of people to be on here and tell their story, which I'm really excited for too. But you know, like a huge podcast that has helped me personally is School of Greatness by Lewis Howes. Like, he's such an amazing man. And
super good. Yeah.
so good, dude. And the people he has on are so, like, I can resonate with on such a deep level that have helped me on this journey, you know. And but like for us, like, I'm just really proud of us because
For sure.
I feel like men, it's so easy not to be vulnerable, right? Like, it's our society tells us that we can't talk about our shit and our problems, and we have to have this mask, which, I mean, I feel like we both had so many in our life, like this mask of like, I'm okay, don't ask, like I'm good. And I remember listening to Lewis Howes, and I was in college, and he had someone on that said, you know, normally they saw, if I ask you and you're having like a really bad day and I ask you, how are you doing? You're just gonna be like, oh, bro, I'm good. Because you don't want to get into it, right? You don't want to talk about it. You don't want to cry. Like, I'm an emotional person. Like, you don't want to go through that phase of like all those emotions. I'm good, bro. I'm good. He said, like, I challenge you the next time someone asks, like, how you're doing, like, be honest. And I remember I'm having a beer in college outside with my buddy Matthew, and we're sitting like literally outside in Grand Canyon Brewery. And so funny, bro. We're like, he's like, how are you doing? And I'm like, honestly, bro, I'm really doing bad. And I like start tearing up. And he's like, well, now that you're like, we got us how you feel, I'm gonna tell you. And we both started crying like in this brewery, bro. And the girl comes up to us, like, we're outside Grand Canyon Brewery, and she's like, can I get you a beer? And we were like, both crying. She was beside him. He's like, interrupt, like, it's okay, like, we're okay, like, we're just sobbing.
You're like, how are you?
Yeah, like, how are you? You know, like, seriously, it was such a pivotal moment, like, because like he's like, now that you're like gonna be honest with how you're doing, I'm gonna be honest. And we were both like crying, and it was such a like a powerful moment because like it was so funny, bro. Like, she like seriously walks up like, oh, I'm sorry, we're just like crying, you know. But it's so rare for men to be vulnerable. Like, I personally have a few friends, and now my circle is so small. Like, I feel like in college my circle was so big because like the men around my life and the friends that I surround myself with are my real friends. Like, my brothers, who I would do anything for, go to battle for, whatever it is. But me and you can, like, I feel like this conversation we're having right now is like an everyday life in our house.
Oh, for sure.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, we can talk about our problems and how we're feeling, and it's so rare to have those friends, and like, it's so special, you know. And you know, I want anyone to like out there listening to this, like, you can always reach out to me. You know what I mean? Like, truly, I'm an open book. I'll talk to anybody about anything. But
same.
You know,
Yeah.
It's true.
Yeah.
It's hard to find those friends. You know, and
Absolutely.
It's hard for me to be vulnerable in certain instances, and it's scary to like talk about this podcast because like I am a private person. Of course, to you, I'm very open to my close friends, but like to now have all this on the web for like anybody to like listen to,
definitely,
is scary.
Yeah.
But it's so healing.
It is healing. And on that note, I think just to circle back to like the shame thing, if you feel like you aren't on your path and you feel like somebody does ask you how you are and you can't genuinely be vulnerable about it, like, there's no shame in being where you're at. And it's so, like, sometimes it takes it took me so long to humble myself to be able to admit that I'm not living what I'm projecting to everybody all the time. And it's hard, it's embarrassing, it's scary, it's uncomfortable, and there's no fucking shame in it, because you're not really, obviously we try not to hurt other people, but really the only damage is to yourself, and that you're not really allowing yourself to experience life to its full capacity, and you're not allowing yourself to be authentic and share deep and meaningful connections with other people, because you're not really showing people what's under the surface. So there's no shame in that, and there's no shame in recognizing that you're not living how you want to be. I think the biggest, most valuable thing is just to accept yourself where you're at. And that's the most useful tool to just getting to where you want to be.
I think that's a huge, important thing, because like we all might not be, like how I circled back to earlier, like we might not be where we are today, like where we want to be, but like just taking that first step, right? Like, for instance, like if you're quitting alcohol, okay, so the first day, and then it's the next day. It's just take it day by day. You know what I mean? Like, if you're not smoking, like, you know, just take it day by day. I think that's the biggest thing. And then also, like, you know, like, I was reading this book, and it was saying, like, basically, if you, for instance, like, are drinking, right? And then you like relapse, like you actually like you like I've been a month straight, like you could get so down on yourself, right? And you could be like, holy shit, like I was so clean for 90 days and here I am drinking again. Like you could get sucked into that really negative low spot. And instead, this book said call it a data point. So instead of calling it a relapse, call it a data point. So, okay, so on a chart, like here I am 90 days. Okay, now I'm back at day 1, but it's a data point. It's not.
Look how far you got.
Look how far you got. And
That's
I
cool.
think that's a big thing. Whether
good
it's
reframing.
You know what I mean? It's a good, whatever it is. Like you know, it's so important to not get down on yourself because it's so it's so easy to get down and to blame yourself and say I'm not in this life where I want, or I don't have this much money that I feel I need. But look around you, it's so beautiful. Like, you know, we get to both live in Sedona. It's beautiful outside. It's sunny. This weather is crazy. I wish it was snow. Where's the snow at? I want to go snowboarding, but no.
It's like 70 degrees. So scary.
Like 2 years ago, and
T-shirts,
t-shirt.
dude.
We were both wearing sweaters. We're like, we could be wearing this t-shirt right now, but they're seriously like, it's okay to not be okay.
Yeah.
And I think that's something that, you know, it's so hard to like realize and to like actually accept, right? And to like live through.
Yeah, definitely.
And then maybe today I don't feel okay, but then tomorrow I'm gonna feel great.
Yeah.
You know, and the holidays I feel like is a really hard time for people. You know, 'cause either they've lost somebody or, you know, they don't have a dog in their life anymore that was there last year, or a brother or a sister. You know, I've had like a lot of like death this year. It sucks, but there's still like, you know, like to know that they're okay and they're in a good place, you know what I mean, and to remember that like they only want the best for us, or like whatever instances it is. Like find that drive like within yourself that will help you like get on that path, that will make you keep going. Like there's a lot of pivotal moments in my life where I look back and say like, okay, so that's where I want to drive myself, and that's where I want to keep going from, you know what I mean? And that Kyle like needs this Kyle to show up every single day and get to that point. Find that drive within yourself, and it could be anything. It's probably different for everybody.
Yeah. I just on accepting where you're at, I've moved probably between 30 and 35 times in my life, and I think yesterday I woke up, I was fine. I slept good and just took a shower, and then it was like just tidal wave of emotions, and just like profusely just purging and crying so much shit until I was like on the floor and just like, holy shit, like where's all this? And it felt like it had all just been like kind of waiting to be let go of. And I really do think it was because I'm moving again, and it's like, I don't want to take all this shit with me. I don't want to like pack all of this shit and bring it with me. I just want to let it go. And as far as like accepting, I think it's the most valuable thing we could do. It's so crazy. If we could surrender and know that like even the hardest emotions and the hardest realities are here to be experienced and they're here to be witnessed, is just so much part of our experience. And some of the most important parts is developing the capacity to hold and feel hard emotions and face reality as it is, and know that we can, and that we don't need to escape it. It is literally what we came here for. So on that, any closing remarks, advice, anything that you'd want to share for anybody starting out or just living their best life?
I think like to tap on what you just said is a great way to end it too, is like, my therapist, I was talking to him about this. He said, okay, so, you know, you've had a lot of stuff you've worked through and you've like healed from, right? Would you be where you are today if you hadn't gone through all that? And I was sitting there like, no, I wouldn't. I wouldn't be able to show up for my little in the ways and talk to him about his dad like I had if I didn't have the situation with my dad, right? If I haven't gone through the shit I did with alcohol or my own self or numbing, how can I show up for my friends who are going through the same thing that I'm going through, right? And so like it's so I think everything happens for a reason, and I think I'm such a believer in that. But when you're in that such a negative place, it's hard to realize that, right?
Yeah.
Like when you're in such a bad place, you're like, okay, why is this happening to me? But like now that I've gotten through that, I can sit here and say that's what made me the man I am today.
Totally.
Right? I can show up in a relationship because of like the things that I did and the things that the hurdles that I've gone through. I can show up with my friends. I can show up in my personal life. Like, I think for me, as just like the biggest thing for these people like listening to this is like find your what and find your need and find your why, right? Like in my lowest point, like, okay, so you're there, just take it day by day. Like if you're gonna quit drinking, like, okay, so today I'm gonna quit drinking. Don't focus on a week from now. Don't focus on a month from now.
Yeah.
Don't focus on a year from now. Like focus on today,
Yeah.
right? And then if you have an urge to drink again, I'm not gonna drink today.
Yeah.
Like it could be day 3, I'm not drinking today.
Yeah.
You know, you drive by a liquor store, you want to go pick up a bottle of tequila, whatever it is. I'm not drinking today. And then the next day you're already gone. Like they say that the urge is only for, I think it's like 90 seconds.
Oh,
60
wow.
seconds.
Yeah.
So if you can hurdle through that, you're already there.
That's wild.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it goes over. And so I think that is the biggest thing for like my closing thing is like, you can do it. And like you are powerful enough to do anything you set your mind to, like truly. And it's crazy because like literally my life, like I wouldn't be sitting here talking to you in front of this laptop having a podcast. I wouldn't be having I wouldn't be having the house. I wouldn't be having the job. Like if I didn't just take it day by day, I'm almost at a year. Like it's crazy how much your life can just change like that if we just want it. And I feel like just find that why and find your drive and you'll be there quicker than you know it. And then everything just starts falling into place. It is such a beautiful thing. So
Yeah.
How about you?
Cool, man. I do like the why. Because I had like a few mentors and a few different teachers that are like, do you know your purpose? Or like, do you feel like you're aware of like why you're here, what drives you and stuff? And I don't think it's that hard to figure out. I think it just takes a little patience and you writing down, deciding on the prompt, like what lights your fire, or like what am I here for? What am I motivated to show up every day for? And for me, it's like I want to live an extraordinary life. I don't want to fall into the mold, let my past define me, let my past programming and everything decide like what I'm going to do on a daily basis. And I want to live with an open heart. And it's like a really unpopular topic for men because it's not masculine. It's not like, it's the opposite of the stoic, aggressive, dominant male ego. It's just the opposite. Like living with an open heart is a very feminine thing. And I think to do so offers so much good in the world. So I think breaking the mold of like a stereotypical man and living with an open heart, serving God and asking yourself how you could serve people genuinely, all resonates with me. Like that's my purpose. It didn't take me long to find that out. It took me like a little bit of determination and a pen and paper. That was it.
Yeah, journaling is big. Like
so big.
Big thing for people listening. If you're just trying to find like the first thing to really start going on is like just pick up a notebook and journal.
There's plenty. It'll flow. It'll go by itself.
So,
yeah.
Yeah, I think it's a big thing. And I think like how you just said to tap on like, we could talk all day about this, like masculinity and like what society tells us.
For sure.
Man, maybe we could talk about it. Maybe that's our next podcast is like masculinity.
Masculinity.
Disgusting and like
fucking gross.
Well, it's true, like because you know if you just live that life, like it's all about the me and
sure,
like,
yeah,
like aggressiveness and like anger. At the end of the day, like that's not serving anybody. It's not serving you, your relationship, your family, the ones around you. Like
it's also not manly. I just don't think it is. I think we have outdated stereotypes about masculinity that it's just not real.
So I think we should talk about that in the next podcast.
For sure. Let's cover it. Last note that I wanted to add is just to like snowballing and focusing on one day at a time. If you, while you're feeling whatever's coming up, instead of rushing to busyness or doing anything or distracting yourself, if you could get in the habit of just committing to 5 minutes of meditation, 5 minutes of thinking about only your breath, 5 minutes, I feel like it's such a transformative tool to help shift your perspective. So that's all I want to add. I think we're done here.
I love you all. Thank you all for listening. This is we'll get better and better as this goes. But honestly, bro, I think that was a really solid first episode.
Got some time in.
Yeah, I don't even know what this is. Yeah. Good. All right. Well, much love, everybody. Thank you all.
Thank you.
And have the best day. Live in gratitude. Namaste.